very important point. If you're not
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's conversation. This week, we will be discussing cannabis equity, and our panel for today is full of guests who are here to share all of their insights with us. If you are new here, we welcome you and invite you to join us every Sunday, same time at 2 p.m. to discuss a range of topics that you all, as our audience, can actually help select through our website. We also invite you to join us on Tuesdays as we highlight Black and Brown businesses and community leaders, and Thursdays where we bring you educational presentations teaching you all about the things to help you thrive. So for those joining us on Zoom, you can add to the conversation through the chat or by raising your hand to be brought up as a panelist and have the ability to unmute and speak. For those on Facebook Live, we will be checking the comments to include your input. And to introduce our co-host for today, my name is Jada and I'm the Director of Programs here at Both Sides of the Conversation, and my co-hosts are
Rico Hamilton, co-founder of Both Sides of the Conversation. We also have
John Henry, co-founder of Both Sides of the Conversation. I'm gonna turn it over to Danielle to go over our disclaimer and our community standards.
Hello, my name is Danielle. I'm your guest host for Both Sides of the Conversation. So Both Sides of the Conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation. Please be respectful of that. Be respectful of the panelists, hosts, and participants. Healthy debates and conversation are encouraged. Don't personalize anything with anyone. Name calling, bullying, trolling, or shaming will not be allowed. Your perspective is yours. It's not a prescription. You don't have to agree, but please show respect. Creating an open forum for dialogue and for healing education is what we do here. I would like to go ahead and start with our disclaimer for today. The information presented by the panelists of today's show does not reflect the opinions and perspective of both sides of the conversation. Both sides of the conversation does not promote, condone, or advocate licit or illicit drug use or illegal activities. The information in today's show is intended for adults 21 years of age and older. Both sides of the conversation cannot be held responsible for material on its web pages or pages to which we provide links which promote, condone, or advocate licit or illicit drug use. Discussion on today's show on the illegal usage and selling of cannabis and cannabis products is only relevant to the state of California and other states in the US where cannabis is legalized. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
All right,
Thank you, Danielle. Hi, everybody. My name is Kosla Crockett. I'm the Development Director here at Both Sides of the Conversation. Today, we're going to have with us Jamal Williams, who is a jack of all trades, but more importantly, Jamal is an entrepreneur, a tastemaker of the Bay Area for over the past 30 years, curating, marketing, managing, and promoting various events. He has worked within the music entertainment industry, the restaurants, and the cannabis industry as well. He has worked within, has always had a role in the cannabis business industry, currently at Padre Mood Distribution and Delivery, working with brands and people who are intentional about bringing equity to cannabis. Black Cannajoy, co-founder with Mandela, is a compassion program for Black and Brown people having the right to access to medicinal cannabis and intentionally taking on community, how they can get involved and benefit from Black Cannajoy compassionate program. Black Cannajoy also gives back to equity and craft farmers and artisans. Feedback, marketing, promotion, and other platforms, brands, and products. To support them with that, we have Earl. Earl is of Emily and Earl Sales. Mr. Earl McGee is a senior consultant of Emily and Earl Sales marketing and brand strategist. We also have with us, like I said before, co-founder of Black Cannajoy, Mandela. Mandela is here in that efforts, and I'll let Mandela speak to Black Cannajoy. We have Miss Vanessa, who is also a San Francisco equity applicant, and I will let Miss Vanessa speak to a little bit more of what she does. And we have Alicia, who is the owner of Mayat Apothecary and Bijou Organics. So what we've tried to do is give you a little bit about everybody who are slated at different positions in the industry. We also have here with us today Alejandro Rodriguez, and we really want to appreciate Alejandro for joining us today, because yesterday Alejandro was introduced to me at Black Cannajoy, and he let me know that he offers pro bono legal services and expungement. So as we talk about this conversation with equity and equity applicants in the Bay Area, you'll see why that is increasingly important. We may have some panelists joining us a little bit later on. And so we have invited some other panelists. If you do see them pop on, then just know that they are welcome and support in the effort of equity and cannabis in the cannabis industry. Some framework for today's conversation, and the reason why I particularly felt that it was important for us to discuss this here at Both Sides of the Conversation is because while we talk about all this equity and we're having this whole transition and reclaiming in the United States of America, right? It's really not lost on me that we're having this conversation during Martin Luther King's weekend. And I want to pay homage to him and to our ancestors. Martin Luther King was a civil rights activist. He was definitely a dreamer. Amongst those dreams was social justice. We always talk about civil rights, but we often, have this slighted conversation around social justice. Social justice dream also included equity. Equity is not just a corporate America phenomenon. We don't just want representation in the boardroom. We don't just want equity as it pertains to food injustice and agriculture and talking about Black farmers and bringing food to the table. Equity refers to us as a unit having a representation and a stakehold in industry and industry across the board. So we have the cannabis industry where California is a multi-million-dollar business. And in that, we have been disenfranchised and criminalized for having certain activity as it pertains to marijuana. So we talk about the war on drugs in America, and a part of that was the criminalization of cannabis. It goes way, way back to how they marketed cannabis and how it was then marijuana, and marijuana became this, and people forgot about the authentic medicinal qualities that it has. Marijuana is not crack, right? It's not something that's been formulated to be destructive. But it also, I just also wanted to say that because as we talk about equity, we have to maintain that this is a business and it's a multi-million dollar, if not billion-dollar industry. Pharmaceuticals, Johnson and Johnson, Pfizer, all of them are jumping in on this industry. And so this is the attempt to have that reclamation and that reciprocity is as far as balancing it out. So who we have here today is going to be able to shed light on their stories and their situations and involvement in the equity industry as it pertains to owning. We just don't want to be grabbing at the apple. We want to own the orchard. That is very important. Ownership and being stakeholders in this business is very important. And that takes us on all levels, which is why we have the panelists that we have here today representing. And so I just want to thank them in advance for their time and their wisdom on this Sunday. And I will open the floor, starting with Miss Vanessa. Miss Vanessa, tell us about yourself and your experience in cannabis equity.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Queen Vanessa, and I am a born and raised native of Hunters Point. So when I got introduced into the cannabis equity movement, I was offered relationships and being a dispensary and, you know, doing all those other different things that I didn't feel like would be a best fit for me. So I had kind of started being a part of a movement where we're putting together a nonprofit where we are declaring ourselves as survivors of the aftermath of the war on drugs. So I'm a member of BARS, so that's Born and Raised Survivors, and we're community developers. And our goal is to come back into our urban communities and help build them back up as though we were FEMA and Red Cross. And so I took a different turn in the movement because I feel like the impact is so real, and it's just not about me being an equity partner or me owning a dispensary. I felt like as a people, my voice need to be in the movement. So I'm taking a different approach as we speak. I'm tackling the war on drugs through education, where I'm working with various prominent people in the Bay Area, and we're going to be starting that way in the movement as the war on drugs, because the dispensaries and all the good things that's happening with it is good, but being that so many of us was wounded and education was a big part of it, I feel like I'm going to start there, and then we're going to build up as much as we can. I'm a mentee of Nina Parks, which is the chair of the Office of Oversight Cannabis in San Francisco. So she's working with me on various things that we need to be doing to making sure that not only our voice is being heard, but we also are going to be benefiting from some of the things that need to come into our communities, like compassion programs and also and those type of things. So it's a long process, but the platform belonged to us. And I was just on a call with Nina and them because we're in the middle of the MORE Act, and so is where I need to get out of this here 2 hour dialogue is what can we do to strengthen our voice here in San Francisco as African Americans, and not just San Francisco, like Oakland. Together we can merge to start raising our voices, because there's a lot that we need to make sure don't fall through the crack lines through COVID, like reinvestment funds should be coming out. We need to start addressing some things in San Francisco, and being that it's not a lot of voices really pounding the cannabis equity on advocacy level, it's other levels. That's where I'm going to really try to come in at. So I really hope I can gain the support of everybody on this call, along with the people that's helping me here in San Francisco, and we get our generational wealth and make sure our next generation get something way better out of this than what we did. So basically, we in the aftermath and we in the movement, and we got a lot to do. So let's do it, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Vanessa. Alicia?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining both sides of the conversation today. I'm Alicia. I'm the founder of Mod Apothecary. Mod Apothecary is a woman-owned, Oakland-based cannabis wellness brand. One of my focuses has always been maintaining the health and wellness aspects of cannabis, and so that's primarily why I joined the industry. I'm a generational herbalist. I've always made herbal remedies, and so my view of cannabis is that it is a modality to healing for people, and so maintaining that reputation of the plant so that it's not always something that is looked at with the legal aspect of it, right? Kasi mentioned about the expungement clinics and people getting their records cleaned up due to issues with cannabis in the past. And so part of equity for me is kind of healing those wounds, you know, and then also repairing the reputation of cannabis as a plant, as a medicine, as everything that it can represent in regards to healing for people. I'm a native of Oakland. I grew up during the war on drugs. And so you know, we have an interesting relationship with seeing the ways that the war on drugs really harmed the community, harmed the infrastructure of the community, but also the people. And then also understanding the way that cannabis can facilitate healing for people, for anxiety, for stress, for sleep, for pain, for so many different things. And so seeing that there is kind of this movement to move into the green rush. You know, we often call it the green rush, where cannabis is this new commodity that's legalized, and there's an opportunity to. I'm sorry, there's an airplane flying over, but you know, there's this wealth generation aspect of this plant, and so to see it have the potential of becoming legalized, and then seeing people in my own community not be able to have access to that community, you know, to the entrepreneurial aspects of it, but also myself as the owner of Mod Apothecary, and also Bijou Organics, which is a non-cannabis related business. Knowing that by building these businesses, by remaining community oriented, you know, we can build our businesses, we can be compliant, and we can also generate jobs within our own community, because we have connections with the people in our own community that other companies might not hire because of maybe their records, maybe because of some of their associations, right? We know those people, we care about them, we, you know, we're connected to them in a different way. And so we have a different perspective, we have different outcomes in regards to what we intend to do with the revenues that we generate from this industry. You know, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So, you know, we're talking about a lot of money, a lot of things that could have a really strong impact on our community. And so I joined into the industry because I wanted to help facilitate healing with cannabis. So, you know, a lot of my revenues, you know, do go back into community organizations. I'm happy to say that. That's always going to be a platform for any business that I'm involved in. And I hope that this can be a really valuable conversation and really clean up some of the stigmatization surrounding cannabis as a plant. You know, it's not heroin, it's not cocaine, it's not any of the things that it's kind of been associated with it in the past. As you know, it's medicine. It's been medicine for a very, very long time. It has facilitated a great deal of healing for a lot of people, and I, for one, I want to see that continue.
Shay, that's a whole word. Thank you, sis. I'm gonna go next to Earl of Emily and Earl.
All right. Hello. Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate this opportunity because it's kind of opportunity that I kind of am driven towards. we are independent contractors, sales contractors for brands. We usually work with distributors directly to promote the brand's message and secure sales to bring it alive. So we look for the positives. We look to apply the principles that I've learned as a second career person out of the Midwest advertising community. I sort of bring those principles into this business, this opportunity in terms of cannabis. Again, opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. There's no real losers or winners right now. So in this multi-billion-dollar business, there's nothing but pure opportunity. So I put a very positive spin on this and bring my skills as far as marketing is concerned and sort of crafting messages and relationships that allow brands to grow. I'm a good listener to my leaders. One good old Flossie Bell Johnson from Hattiesburg, she said, hey, can't get nothing with your hand closed. So I'm looking forward to give and to enrich whatever I can to whoever I can to keep the ball rolling. Another leader in my life explains to me there is really only one race, and that's human race. Once you do that, you're not looking at the divisions, you're looking at the commonalities. You're looking at the things that can make us all whole and make us all successful. So I apply those to the standard principle of marketing and advertising to work with these opportunities I find with various different brands in this area. So being from Chicago, segregated city, the most segregated city I've ever been in, here to California, I only see the good. I make the messages that help sell. So I do the grunt work. I have a wonderful partner who's a native here, and that's kind of how we add to the overall picture.
Earl, you do so much more than grunt work, and you know it. Earl is the glue that binds us together. Maul, talk about it. Talk about it, Maul. You got to unmute, brother.
Padre Moo is one of my customers, by the way. I'm sorry, Jamal. I left you
Absolutely no, Earl. Like I'm approaching my 50th. My name is Jamal Williams. I've been in the Bay Area all my life. Born and raised in the town. Parents split up when I was young, so I lived in Berkeley and Oakland and West Oakland and East Oakland. And I got introduced into the entertainment industry when I was about 16 years old. I did it because in the 80s, during the war on drugs, there was also opportunities that I saw as a young kid that I wanted. Our 16-year-olds, we didn't have clubs that we could go to. We didn't have that. So as a youngster, I kind of was like, we will continue to stand on these corners and do these other things that they want us to fall into. We won't have an outlet. We don't have outlets. So I started creating outlets at 16, and I got recognized, and I ended up working for Clear Channel and Bay Area Productions, and they put me on. I was doing concerts. So I was in the music industry, and music and cannabis go hand in hand. So I've been around it all my life. And what I want to say is Earl is OG. He's like a big uncle to me, you know what I'm saying? So it's a pleasure to work with him. Sales is something that's the bottom line. I mean, we want to get our businesses going and work equity and do all this thing. Bottom line is who's going to get that in front of the buyers? And the buyers are people that deserve the medicine. So with that, I partnered with some lawyers who knew all about compliance. I didn't jump in it blindly. I said, listen, if this industry is going to be regulated, I need to partner with some lawyers. So I partnered with Padre Moo, and they are instrumental. They really, we work as a family. It's a small family. I knew the father before I even partnered with him. He was in the music industry and he was a Zen teacher. He was around the community authentically. They born and raised in West Oakland. So I got involved with them, and we've been moving every year. We work with equity programs. We do expungement clinics. They actually, Alejandro is going to speak soon, but he is part of a college, and my business partners went to that college. And before we even got a license, they were still in college. So while I partnered with people that were going into law, but understood the industry. And so I think strategically, startup companies, in equity, you should seek some kind of law, somebody who knows compliance, just so that you don't get caught up a second time, like the war on drugs. Let's start being smart about how we make our business opportunities really come into fruition. You know what I'm saying? Don't just jump into anything. I mean, understand what you're really getting into, because people who have, a lot of people use medicinal marijuana. They've been in my great auntie, she used to have it in a alcohol jar with the actual, plant in there, and rubbed it on her arms. And I mean, I go back to that, like remembering seeing our people in our community, our direct community, using it as medicinal properties. And so if you keep focused on that and not like get caught up in all these conversations about it being illegal, that's done with. Like, we've proven that it's not something that's detrimental to our community. I think that, that's the beginning conversation we need to do. And then as far as like all these different laws and stuff, that's why we got these lawyers that can really, really speak to it. But also, like Queen said, we have to back them up. We have to be able to show up. You have to be at the table. You have to be on these conversations. And yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at in a nutshell.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for being here, for being such a conduit to everybody being together, and for raising that consciousness around know and learn the business, right? Because I think that's a part of the pitfall of, the equity program. It's like, yeah, we was hustlers and we was just doing what we did, but that didn't mean that we knew business, right? Because business and paperwork is two totally different things than, making sure that my block is straight, right? Or making sure that I move this to there and that to there to make sure that I can like eat tomorrow, right? A bunch of this stuff happened out of necessity. It wasn't anything that anybody wanted to do. Or like you said, it was generational, and we was just like, oh, it's been in the house. It's, that's what helped people mellow out, balance out, not to mention like the aspects of healing. You might have had a schizophrenic person, or like I remember my mom and them used to make us our hair grease. We had weed grease and we had weed wraps, and it was like if you was getting ready to take a vacation, you bundled up in that ace bandage and you got slim and you was detoxing and you was getting tight. Now they going to the doctor and stuff. I can't do that, right? But that's just me. No shade, no shade intended, right? But I'm just saying, like, making sure that we learn the business of it is huge, right? Even in formulating these nonprofits, right? There's pitfalls and information that we don't have because of the knowledge gap, right? And so partnering with people like Aaron and Ethan over at Padre Move, and Alejandro is such a valuable thing to do. You know what I mean? Shout out to Ramon. But Alejandro, while we're talking about the law, why don't you expand on that a little bit?
And thank you so much for that. And thank you for having me today.
Absolutely.
My name is Alejandro Rodriguez, and I'm a recent graduate of the same university that Jamal just brought up with Ken and Aaron, owners of Padre Mu. And I just graduated from Golden Gate University School of Law. And during my 3 years there, I spent a lot of time doing expungements, providing entrepreneurial workshops, and providing just pro bono legal services through a student organization called Students for Sensible Drug Policy. I sit on the board of directors for the national organization now. And I'm basically equity minded because I'm from El Paso, Texas. So for me, I only saw the criminalization of marijuana. So for me, first coming out to law school for the first time in 2017, I saw marijuana in a completely different way that I had never seen before. So for me, coming into the Bay Area and being able to walk into an Apple store looking dispensary while there's still people in the South, you know, basically in prison, and people still in prison here in California, didn't sit right with me. So I got to work with Ken and Aaron, and they offered me, the university offered me this law clinic while I was still a student there in my last semester. So I've been developing this through all of 2020, since March of 2020, and it just launched this past Thursday. And what we have is eight law students providing pro bono legal services up to 20 hours to verified equity applicants or any individuals who qualify because they don't have the financial wherewithal to qualify for legal services that are outrageous out here in California right now. So what we're doing with the Cannabis Law Clinic is bringing equity into the community via legal services. And that starts with expungements. It starts with contract reviews, contract negotiations, partnership reviews, partnership negotiations, assisting you through the pipeline in either Oakland, San Francisco, or any other city that has an equity program, because we are helping individuals across the state of California. And we're also, if that's not anything that you need, we're connected with people in the economic and workforce development area like Oaksterdam and Success Center, so we can send you the right way. We also partner with the Office of Cannabis and with the Bar Association of San Francisco, so they will funnel anybody directly to us as the technical assistance provider for any pro bono legal work that you might need, or any technical assistance that you might need in the cannabis industry. And I created this because I was tired of sending people to attorneys who didn't look like us. And I was tired of, getting advice from attorneys who never knew what I came from or what so many of us come from. And I think representation matters. And if they didn't want to give me a seat at the table, I created my own table. So that's the thing, was that I'm a self-starter that way. So I want to try and promote that towards the community out here. I'm fairly new. I'm definitely from the South, and I'm just happy that I'm able to be a part of this conversation out here now, because the community needs it. There's been a great response for it. And I'll be sharing a link to a Google form that you could fill out if you do need any sort of pro bono legal services. We are ready to work, and we're here for the community, and it's brought to you by the community. Me being the director and co-professor, I'm a Latino, and we have a Filipino professor, a co-professor as well. So this is by individuals who look like us and represent us. So we're here for the community, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you for that, Alejandro. And so for those of you viewing, the form for that information has also been added to the chat. All of these contacts are in the chat. So if you want to reach out to any of the individuals on our panel today, please feel free to do that. We do this for educational purposes. We do this for exposure. We do this because these are people in our community, as well as an industry that we should be taking advantage of and getting involved in. We talk all the time about how folks are being, gentrified and moved away and dispersed in other areas. And so one of the ways that we do that is by keeping place and by place keeping. And Mandela is a prime example of that. He has a space in the West that supports him with Black Canna Joy. Mandela, do you want to speak to that?
Hi, everyone. First, want to wish everyone peace, wellness, and joy. Yes, so the garden that we partner with is a community garden called Bottoms Up. And they hold a lot of events in the West that bring a lot of joy and bring people together. So it's real amazing I feel Black Canna Joy is my answer to equity. Our mission is to provide wellness and to teach wellness to the Black community in an unapologetic way. So knowing the laws, knowing how the laws affect you, and knowing that we've been left out of this conversation many, many, many times again. So I'm a 90s kid, I'm 30 years old. I grew up in the FUBU generation, and I was a Ritalin kid before that. So I know what it feels like to be on something that was prescribed to me that just took hold of my whole body, my whole being. Like parts of my childhood, I don't even remember because I was on this drug that's in a schedule lower than cannabis. So in finding CBD and finding all these other wellness products that work so much better, like learning, my mom is a pancreatic cancer right now. Learning that, yo, CBD, no cancer cells can survive in a CBD healthy body. Just those small little things that our Black people that have been pushed down and been given this information, this false education that is truly just lies. So in my fight to provide for my people, that's what I'm about. I'm about getting my people the truth, the access, the wisdom, the knowledge, the love, the wellness. So in my part of providing people the truth, that's what inspired Black Cannabis. Because we suffer from post-traumatic stress. We have cancer, we have AIDS, we have all these sicknesses in our community, but nobody is really being like, check it out. If I'm gonna really help, I'm gonna say the name of those who've been affected by the drug war. Like say our names, like stop sugarcoating it, because that's how we lose out. Because people who have been affected, well, Susie may be affected, but she's not in the Black community, but she, and that's a different tangent to go on. But I'm just really here to provide wellness and access and exposure to my people. And that's what Black Canna Joy is with this bi-monthly box. It's getting people to think outside of just smoking. Like what you feeling, So I'm hoping to do that.
Thank you, Mandela. So I just kind of want to open the floor and go back to the conversation. And Queen Vanessa raised a very good question. What can we do to strengthen our voice in equity and as equity applicants? And we've talked to that a little bit, but I want us to dive in a little bit deeper. And how do we advocate for ourselves? Anybody want to jump in and speak to that?
Hey, I would say that the first and foremost is the truth telling. A lot like Mandela said, telling our stories, being honest about the effects that the war on drugs had on our communities, being honest about resources and what kinds of things that we need access to in order to build compliant businesses that can grow, that can provide more employment inside of our communities. But the truth telling, I think, is one of the biggest aspects. Because there's a lot of people who are showing up, they have a lot of investment, they have a lot of money, they can make things happen really, really fast. They can build businesses with, full teams and consultants and everything, and they can make things happen a lot faster than some of us who grew up in these disenfranchised communities that were really dismantled and disfragmented in a lot of different ways by the war on drugs. And so us telling our stories and being honest about where we are, what we need, what our desires are, what our intentions are in the business community, I think is a big component. And then also, showing up in spaces, learning, I've learned a lot more about politics, about the structure of local government, who to talk to, who to advocate to, just through this whole process, being an equity business. And so I would say that that's a really big thing, just being engaged, finding out how you can be engaged, and then showing up in those spaces, on those calls and everything, so that you can be heard and so that your concerns can be addressed.
So Kasha, before we jump into the conversation, I want you to just kind of speak to the people, because we might have some seniors or we might have some people, young people that's listening in their 30s that really don't understand the whole business of it. So part of this conversation is to help educate people, understand the different functions of the business, understanding the terminology and understanding what does it mean and how does it impact community. And I think that's how we should kick this off. If you want to go through that.
So equity refers to people who have had some sort of involvement with the system and some charge or whatnot. This is the industry's attempt to balance out that ratio, to say that we see where we have impacted you within the war on drugs. Oops, our bad. We've now decided that we changed our mind and this is all legal. And so since we implicated you, they want to feel some sort of like vindication. I don't necessarily want to relate it to white guilt, but it's like, here's a way for us to repay you without necessarily having to give you restitution. Go out and earn your keep, right? With that being said, there are several barriers to being involved in the industry. In order to have a business space to secure a license, you have to have at least 1,000 square feet. That square footage has to be in a designated zone, green or gray, and that market rate value for that property, because it's in a zone, has increased up to 300%. So as whereas you may be paying $500 a square footage, you're paying up to $1,500 a square footage now, just because it's in a green or gray zone. You have the fees, you have the licenses, you have the insurances, you have the staffing, and we haven't even got to our own products and materials that we need to be sustainable and to make our things and to distribute our things and to deliver our things and then to eat and clothe and keep ourselves healthy every day. And I think that's a part of what Alicia was referring to when she was saying how, you have other people coming in from outside, from Canada, from Jamaica, from Colorado, from Oregon, from states and areas and territories that were legal before. They've had an opportunity to corporatize or kind of join and form these conglomerates. They have institutional knowledge and wealth. And then they come in and they form these things and they say, oh, Jamal, I know you're an equity applicant. You got a license. Let me incubate you. Let me pull you underneath my wing and I'll offer you all of this level of support and we can run this business. But if Jamal doesn't know to protect his business as far as profit shares and to protect his brand, then, oh, guess what? That 3-year incubation period, Jamal is bought out of his own business, pushed out the door, and he now no longer has a license that's worth $1 billion because he sold it for a couple of $100,000, right? So we've seen this happen over these cycles of incubation over and over and over again, no matter if you're in cultivation, no matter if you're in distribution or delivery or manufacturing or whatever, or if you just want to have a brand. If I just want to make pre-rolls, I have to be in a certified kitchen. I have to be in some place. Now that it's regulated and now that it's a medicine, we have the same or more stringent standards than the food care industry. They can label things organic and they be so not organic. But if it pertains to your marijuana, you have these labs, you got to pay lab fees, you got to get things tested. And so all of these are entry barriers, right? Yeah, I could have this great recipe for a salve, or I could have this great recipe for a balm. But if I can't afford to get in a commercial grade kitchen and pay for the lab testing and the product packaging and all of these sort of things, then I don't have no product, which is why the black market still exists, right? And so equity is that. And what we're trying to do through organizations and companies like Padre Mu, teaming up with Emily and Earl and Mandela and Alicia and Alejandro, is address all of those barriers so that we can create our own pipeline, so that we can create our own supply chain and really honor the system of institutional knowledge and wealth, and also this system of regenerative income in our own community. We should not be creating industry and then just giving it away. Everybody want California sticky icky. Everybody want that good. Everybody want that loud. Everybody want that strong. You got people coming to California, as they have been for years, from all these other places. And ain't nobody in California making no money. What's wrong with that? Maul, tell me, what's wrong with that? Go ahead, speak to it, brother.
Well, I mean, like I said, I like to concentrate on what we can do and what we can do in this space. You know what I'm saying? So I look at how we set up Padre Mu. We give resources immediately. It's a small company. We didn't have a big influx of money, but what we did was we had a big influx of knowledge. We had people that was in the industry that was already about to become a lawyer. We had people going to school, learning the laws, that was already working under lawyers. You know what I'm saying? So we came in it like, okay, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started probably 6 or 7 businesses, you know what I'm saying, all my life. So I felt like in order to join somebody with other people, they would have to have skin in the game. You know what I'm saying? They would have to understand what direction we're going into. And so intentionally, we all had the same, we want to help our community. You know what I'm saying? We all had the same, we want to do better for our lives, our families. You know what I'm saying? We had the same that we want to take this on a national level. So when I look at Padre Mu and what we're doing right now in California, we can duplicate the success in Arizona and in Nevada and in, you know what I'm saying? So I think that the resource sharing, the forums like this, the constantly giving out that information, whether it's, you know, through one-on-one events or if it's online, I think sharing the information and sharing the data and understanding that this is a business. People get in like this, some people, this is their first business they ever been into. You know what I'm saying? So they don't understand that, you know, simple things like you got to have this license and you got to have a space and you got to have it. Those things are simple business things, but we try to give that knowledge. We're not saying, oh, you beneath us, but we like, you know what? I was there too. You know what I'm saying? Not even a year ago, I was there. You know what I'm saying? So let me go ahead and share this information and not charge you a whole bunch of money to do it. You know, and some people receive it, some people don't. But a lot of these people on this panel are people we deal with directly, and they receive that information, and that's why we're growing together. You know what I'm saying? So.
I think that's dope. I think that's one thing that we have to do is definitely connect the resources. That's one thing we believe here on both sides of the conversation is making sure the community stay united with information. That's why we have our educational Thursdays. Definitely want to get those presentations out there to the community to get that information. But as we move the conversation along, I want to go back to Alejandro because I know we have this MORE Act. I know the Congress passed a bill that was legalizing marijuana, and I want to get a little bit more understanding of the law. What is it going to take to get passed in the Senate? Because I heard you say earlier, here in California, there's a lot of people walking free on the streets, but we still have people across this country who are still locked up. So what is this MORE Act looking like? What is these final vote from the Senate? What does this look like for our people who are behind bars? Because we know there's a lot of Black and brown people who have been affected for the cannabis. And now with these passings and legislation, how is this going to work? How is it going to roll out? What does it look like for community?
Yeah, so the MORE Act is great and all, and I enjoy that it would bring a pathway towards legalization. But a lot of problems that I could point out, especially what equity groups are saying here locally, is that it doesn't do enough as far as being able to open up a business, even though you have a prior offense on your record. So as my understanding is that if you have a felony in the cannabis industry under the MORE Act, you would not be able to open up a business under a federal license. So that's problem number one with the MORE Act. It needs to do more. Two, it doesn't open up any sort of funding towards individuals who have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. So as of right now, it just seems to be like a piece of paper that's not offering any resolution towards the people who actually need it. So I think when it revisits the Senate, if it visits the Senate floor during the new Senate, there needs to be key amendments to one, take away those restrictions that it has, two, provide some sort of funding for individuals who don't have the equity or the capital to be able to open up these businesses, and three, just create nationwide expungement, similar to what California and other states have done. Just on one specific date, everything that has been cannabis related just wiped off your record. And if you're currently serving a sentence, then that sentence needs to be commuted. And I think those are the three things that need to happen under the MORE Act. And I think it's failing. And until they address those issues, I don't want to hear that this is, it'll be good, but who's it going to be good for? Right. So I think it'll be good for, other private interests that aren't our own. But as of right now, the MORE Act is not doing more. And I think that it needs to do more. So I think those are some key issues. I know, I believe it was Queen who mentioned, advocating for that, lobbying against that. And I think that that's a key point that needs to happen this year. So we could see that change at a national level, Because if we don't address it now, then once it goes national and and it hasn't been addressed, we're just going to be revisiting the conversation of like, how do we get these individuals to pass something that's positive for us? And they're never going to get it done. So it needs to happen now, I think.
So I guess the other question is, so the initial passing from the House about taking it off the Schedule 1, has that completely passed, or is it still tied up with the act?
It's passed in the House. Now it needs to get the Senate, but since Mitch McConnell wasn't allowing a vote on it, now there needs to be a vote on it, but there'll be a new majority leader, of course, now that the Democrats have taken control. So that could be placed for a vote in the Senate now. But like I said, it needs to be addressed with key amendments within that legislation to address the pitfalls of the failed war on drugs.
Cool. I see Liz jumped in. You guys want to go ahead and introduce and bring Liz in? Is her camera's working? Liz, is your camera mic working?
So we'll give her a moment to jump in. I did want to give Mandela, I did want to give you an opportunity to speak a little bit more about Black Canna Joy and what people needed in order to participate in the program. And if you could speak to what they need and how they can access that information. We have added those links in the chat, but just speak about that.
So Black Canna Joy is a compassion program. We service the Black community specifically because of the post-traumatic stress, the illness, the trauma that we go through every single day. Since compassion under 215 is legal now, we weren't even added to the conversation. So to keep ourselves protected, since cannabis is a medicine, we require our members to get their medical license. And that helps us to be able to stay compliant in this industry and protect ourselves. This is very important. Wellness, Black wellness, specifically Black wellness, since we live in a world that does not care about our wellness. And equity for Black Canna Joy is representing ourselves in this industry. So representation, us coming together at the garden in West Oakland, that's equity. Having an expungement person there, having distribution there, having this compassion program, all in a space where us gathering as Black people will be overly policed, probably illegal. Yesterday, there was no fights, there was no nothing. Yeah, I'm just going on a tangent here because I'm so passionate about this program. But yeah, this is my answer to equity. Equity is action.
Well, one quick question. So I know you said that the medical part of it, for the patients having to register as medical, how does that affect people on the big end? I know originally before the law had changed, people that were signing up for medical, it was affecting them for the controlled substance law for driving and different jobs and firearms. Is that still attached to the medical filing, or is it separate now, or what have they done to change that?
Jamal, if you can piggyback on that question, from what I researched, when you have your medical license, you're protected under the statute that you are using something for your wellness. So it's not recreational. So we're a medical program.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah,
And I think Jamal, and then we'll go to Alejandro for some clarity.
yes. So basically, the compassionate program became legal again just in March of 2020. Gavin signed it into law, but compassionate program was established years ago. And like Mandela said, we just wasn't aware of it as a people. You know, they were giving away weed at different dispensaries. Most dispensaries were nonprofits, and they were supposed to give away weed. You know what I'm saying? But the conversation didn't get to our community. We didn't know about it. You know what I'm
They
saying?
didn't care about us.
People like Sweetleaf Joe and different people who we've talked to, and they've mentored us, kind of like been in the trenches since the 90s, you know what I'm saying, with these programs, Operation EVAC, all these different compassionate programs kind of like schooled us and let us know how they got started, you know, and having a recommendation from a doctor is not the same as going to a state program and getting a recommendation. I'll let Alejandro talk to you more about that, but I mean, it is the patient's right to access. And that's why we got started with Black Cannabis intentionally, you know what I'm saying, and make it happen and without any barriers, without any, you know, like I said, once again, it's better to have compassion legally than to go, you know, because we already know the war on drugs is against us. So if we don't have all our ducks in a row, then, you know, they will come for us. So that's why, once again, people like Alejandro, my business partners, Aaron and Ken, like they have been 1000% behind us with this program and stuff. And so that's why, yeah, I'll let Alejandro speak to the rest of the legal side. But right now, we have doctors that work legally, that's registered with HIPAA and everything like that. And they give our patients or our members recommendations. And that's how far it goes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you, generally speaking, you are essentially safe as a medical patient, but I just want to, note important precedent, coming down from the courts that does say that federal law will not recognize the defense of medical necessity to a prosecution under the Controlled Substances Act, where a necessity defense for marijuana is not provided by statute, even in a state which has legalized and regulated medical cannabis. And this is United States v. Oakland Cannabis Buyers Cooperative, a 2001 case decided by the Supreme Court. Now, in the formal opinion given by the State Bar of California and following guidance under the Obama administration via the Cole Memorandum, the United States Department of Justice advised that it did not intend to use federal resources to prosecute under federal law patients and their caregivers who were in clear and unambiguous compliance with state medical marijuana laws, except in cases involving broader issues of federal policy, such as minors involved in cannabis or any sort of cartel or money laundering. You should be fine, but that is just important precedent to point out that you are safe given the Cole Memorandum under the Obama administration that says that there is no money being handed off to the Department of Justice to prosecute anybody who is in compliance with their state marijuana laws.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. And I just want to take a brief moment. We have the Miss Liz Jackson from the Success Center joining us. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining us and taking this time out on your Sunday. So glad you were able to jump in. So if you can just tell people about yourself and about the Success Center and what you guys are doing over there, that would be awesome.
Thank you guys for having me on both sides of the conversation. I want to thank my niece Tashelle for inviting me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is, and I'm the CEO of Success Centers. We provide alternative education, workforce development services to marginalized communities. We've been around for almost 40 years now. We were started by Superior Court judges who saw the need to provide these services largely for the young men who are returning from our county's detention facility, who everyone knows 85% of them looked like me. It's now closed down, but still the precedent of who's detained hasn't changed. The percentages haven't changed. And so we haven't wavered from that mission. About 5 or 6 years ago, as we were going along this trajectory, we asked some of the young people that we work with, what are you and your friends gonna need to be successful in the next 5 years? And they said, all those jobs you get us, Miss Liz, in retail or the hospitality industry, they're cool, but we want to do things that we're really interested in. And they talked about tech, and they talked about construction, and even the cannabis industry. Everybody laughed, but I wanted to know more. What if this young man presented this ideal about getting into the cannabis industry? As we heard in previous conversations, we knew it had been approved medically for medical use, and dispensaries were popping up, and they knew that in the ensuing years it would be legalized for adult recreational use. So they wanted to get inside, and we knew that over 80% of those young people that were inside detention had committed crimes that are of an economic nature, and many of them had marijuana sales on their records. And so we, as part of the fight on the war on drugs, we wanted to figure out how do we create opportunities for individuals to not only just work in the industry, but pioneer entrepreneurship. How do we help people own and operate it? I mean, hell, they were very successful selling marijuana in the Black market. How do we teach them business acumen and help them get the supports that they need to start their own businesses? So we've been working with the city around, and job seekers, the businesses in the city around 4 propositions over the past like 3.5 years. One is again helping job seekers prepare and get ready for jobs. You know, we had to help them change the lingo. It's not joints, but pre-rolls, and you know, they learned about tinctures, and they learned customer service skills, and we helped them to put resumes together. We helped them to get their records expunged and how to present themselves in a way that would be appealing in this industry. But we also help individuals who are interested in, you know, starting their own businesses. On Thursdays from 5 to 7, Wednesday afternoons from 5 to 7, my colleague Angela White leads Equity for Industry workshops. And here we bring in a number of equity cannabis business leaders into our Zoom space to teach folks from seed to sale. So you learn about, you know, white labeling, you can learn about the law, you can learn about expungement, you can learn about financing and taxation. I mean, every facet of the industry, we pretty much have found an industry professional to, you know, run 1-hour workshops on anything you could possibly think about or ask, from how to navigate the office of cannabis to, you know, branding, every aspect. We probably have over 90 workshops in our repertoire now. And so we also, you know, to have a storefront in San Francisco, you must also either hire 35% of your workforce needs to be made up of equity job seekers. And so some of the things that are required to know about job seekers are illegal for employers to ask, like, does anybody in your family have a marijuana arrest record? That's none of their business. And so we can ask those questions because we're a service provider. And so we are the only entity probably in all of California that is doing this type of workforce development support. And so we're a known and trusted resource now. So when folks come referred by us, they know that they have been vetted and folks are coming pre-screened and qualified. Or if you want to have a storefront for recreational adult sales and use of marijuana in San Francisco, you then have to incubate an equity qualified, verified candidate in your business. And so we help people to navigate the systems, get their equity verification. We support people at the city planning. We have experts that also help them navigate that, put their business plans together, on and on and on. Then we help the city with compliance. They have a number of systems in which the jobs should be listed in the first source hiring system. So we help businesses as well as job seekers navigate that. As well, they might call us to verify, did these employers give their time, talent, and resource to support the workforce development efforts in the city? And we can also verify that. So it's been a very interesting process. We've seen all the changes and machinations of how the system has evolved over the past 3 years, and we've offered lots of suggestions and advocacy, but there's still so much more work to do. I mean, minimally to start a business in this town is gonna cost, $250,000. And the planning process for, you gotta have a storefront, and how long it takes to navigate through the planning department and get your permits, it's just outrageous. And a lot of people are losing, hundreds of thousands of dollars just waiting without being able to make a dime. So there's a lot of things we still need to fix, a lot of things we still need to think about to really support and assist equity applicants and job seekers to navigate the system. But it's a start. It's a start, and at least I think San Francisco has been a little bit more, San Francisco and Oakland have been more progressive in about inclusion, have an opportunity so much further to go and to do to support our people entering into this field. And so I just encourage and employ everyone to come and check us out. You can go onto the Success Center website. Angela White, and go on our website and also find job opportunities and register with her for more information. So again, thank you again. If anybody is interested in the workshops, please join us. Jobs, please contact us. Or if you're interested in sharing information on our platforms to potential job seekers or equity incubatees, please let us know.
Thank you. Could you put the information in the chat for people out there? I see some people asking, what is the Success Center? That'll be definitely very helpful. Rico.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've added the Success Center and also tagged you in on our Facebook chat, Ms. Liz. So if you can add any additional information, that would be helpful. We also had a question in the chat that
yes, no problem.
How can a compassion program become a nonprofit? And Alejandro spoke to that, and he said you have to register your program as a nonprofit business and be mindful that there are certain guidelines you must meet to be accepted as a nonprofit. You can navigate it independently. I know NOLO, NOLO, is an online site that has books and audio books and digital books for you to help you walk yourself through exactly what per state, because the guidelines for nonprofits are different in each state. So if you're going to do something like that and try to navigate it on your own, I do recommend that you get some reference guides, but it's always good to take advantage of a lawyer, especially if they're pro bono. So reach out for that support, because in your filings of your paperwork, you do not want the foundation of your business to be wrong. Right? That's how they get you on tax evasion and get you on fraud and get you on this. So it becomes not necessarily, oops, I made a mistake, but a federal crime. So make sure that you check the paperwork and utilize your resources. John, you were speaking to Rico.
Absolutely.
I think Rico has something to say, and then we have a bunch of people that have some comments in there. I think Earl might be able to answer some of this, but I'm gonna let Rico go ahead. But somebody was asking, they realizing that there's not a lot of Black women on the cultivation side. So I guess after Rico speak, can we kind of talk about the difference of cultivation, distributing, and kind of help educate these people? And I know they're saying people there, some of them not living in San Francisco no more. How do they get these resources out in the East Bay and across the country? So maybe you guys could speak to that. But go ahead, Rico.
Yeah, first I just want to just say thank you, Liz, for coming on. Love you, sis, for all the amazing work that you continue to do.
Love you too, baby.
In all the different neighborhoods of San Francisco. I just want to thank you so much for always lending out that information to our community. Always been ahead of the curve. So just definitely want to say that first. Also, I do have a question. So I do a lot of the work in the community, and there are a lot of individuals who signed up for the equity program and did get equity approved. But for some reason, the information just isn't getting there, or it is getting there. And for some reason, they just don't know how to navigate through it. How can we support all of your efforts and the education that you're trying to get to the community. How can we support you in making sure that individuals is getting this information from the lowest level to being a trimmer to the highest level of them even wanting to be incubated and starting their own business? How can we support your efforts and what you have going on?
Sure. So like I was saying, I guess the best way is to, help us to further get out the information about our equity for industry workshops or job shops. The job shops are, where we invite the employers in. It's all on a Zoom platform. We used to bring people by droves into our offices in the Western Addition. But because of the necessity and the advent of Zoom, we've been able to reach folks across the country with our workshops and everything. So definitely feel free to broadcast our information out. And again, I'll put our contact information on into the chat. But please feel free to blast the weekly workshop information out or the job shop information. That's another huge structural barrier for us is the need of technology. You gotta have quality Wi-Fi, you gotta have a computer and a laptop in order to do anything today. And, in our communities, that's a huge barrier. Because you can't do everything from your phone. Like now I'm navigating from my phone, and it's tough. It's different than having a computer where I can be fully functional. But that's one huge way is to help us to get the word out. We're also publicized in a number of periodicals. When we made it to Forbes magazine and High Times, it was like, okay, we're really on to something here. And there is a tremendous need to really, and interest too, I think, across the country to help figure out how we get more Black and brown people into the space. Because you're right, there's not enough of us for all that we've endured over the centuries. There's not enough of us in this space. And like no others, we know how to grow. We know how to manage the business. We just have to learn how to do it in a more professional business matter. And then I want to encourage people to also think about other ancillary businesses. You don't necessarily have to have a storefront or have a cultivation. Every single ancillary business is also affiliated with the cannabis industry, like accounting, like marketing, like human resources, and have a significant twist to that work. So I think about becoming an expert. If you are already an accountant, think about how you can help folks who need support in this space, because we know the taxes are different. We know it's a cash only business. How do we manage that? In marketing and who can work. Everybody with a felony cannot go to work in this industry, and some of those things aren't, even though they're expunged, they don't go away for a lot of in the space. So, we need to know the nuances so we can prevent our people from spinning their wheels or running into brick walls as well. So, there are other places and spaces that are equally as important to support this industry and to support our folks, in addition to managing a storefront or owning a storefront.
Hey, Earl, you want to jump in there?
We're going to Alejandro and then we'll go to Earl.
Thank you so much for that. I just want to echo what Liz said. I think that a lot of the needs that we've been seeing at the Cannabis Law Clinic is individuals coming up to me and telling me, how do I open up a retail storefront? And I keep trying to remind people that in San Francisco, that opportunity might be gone already. Since the equity program was established, they've only given 3 or 4 equity licenses. I didn't check the 2020 numbers, but as of their official review from the city in 2019, they had only issued 3 licenses at that point. So there's a great need for retail. There's a huge backlog as far as retail storefront work goes, but there's, people aren't opening up delivery, services, manufacturing, distributing, cultivation. And that's where I'm trying to steer people into, because that's going to be the quickest way of getting you into the cannabis space if you want to be in the actual production or selling of the plant itself or the flower itself. So I think that's one way to approach this is just keep reminding people that unless you have the money or the capital to wait 3 years while you're sitting on that space with these rents in San Francisco, it's not worth it as far as the retail storefront. And then legal fees on that retail storefront are outrageous as well. You might do 6 figures just in legal fees on getting that application through the pipeline. So there's a lot of things that I think we need to tell the community that it might be faster for you to just open up shop in another area or in another business that might be in branding or in marketing and stuff like that. I think those are all valuable ideas, and we're here to provide those services at the Cannabis Law Clinic and steer you in the right direction as well.
Thank you.
There's a way to look at relationship building that helps in understanding what your brand needs to be, what your product needs to be, by simply going to these dispensaries, by utilizing weed maps and Leafly and all these directories, and look at the commonality into the products. Another really great way, we do have some successful brands. Berner's brand cookies is one to go onto YouTube. All of his biographies and what he has done and interviews are all right there. And he really talks about things like pheno hunting, finding an extremely good strain and building on that, how to do that. As a matter of fact, there's a way to get involved with his particular expertise and how to do pheno hunting, because he also uses this guy, Mark Guzman, who is Shabinsky is his name in his particular brand. So he has actually incubated several brands that are from the strain hunting aspect of it. There's another one that's called the Strain Hunters. It's about Arian Roscom that's out of Sweden, and how they went to other countries and found different strains and so on and so forth. There's a lot of information out there about that particular area. But if you take it from the perspective of a consumer, when you go to the dispensary, look around and see what's being pushed at you, what's popular by with other people. Why do you buy a specific product over another product? Those are extremely important things to do, because the consumer perspective is so strong and needed. I mean, the pharmaceutical companies don't have a clue. I mean, they're not users. They don't have a clue of what it actually works. They may be able to buy it, the license, they may be able to stack a bunch of licenses together. They may be even able to grow by buying, multiple licenses and adding them up in terms of the number of feet. But the consumer's perspective and the ability to develop a relationship between your bud tender and the customers, between the people who own the brands and the people who are buying them for the dispensaries, it's invaluable to look at how that business works. Why do people buy one brand over the other? Why do you buy one brand over the other as a consumer? So being a bud tender is also another way to get that information of seeing the business. But relationship building is the core of the success once you get behind all of the other things that you need to work through. And that's one that is you don't find classes on that for the cannabis industry. You may find it for other products, but it has to be applied to the cannabis industry, because remember, people that are buying cannabis, they would go to jail to get this. So that is a hook there that no one else really has. You see what I'm saying? So it's a very powerful thing and fits into an opportunity, but it is not universally known. You can't buy it. You can't buy that information. You have to think about it, develop it, share it is a biggie. And that's where work with Black and Brown people comes in. We have to learn how to share information, because that's what builds our synergies, and that's what builds the business and develops the relationships. Those things can't be bought.
So one quick thing too, as Kasha take over, For people, like I said, we have people in the community who don't understand all the cannabis. Can you guys differentiate between the CBDs, the THCs, the edibles, the smoke? Because some people might, smoke is not where I'm at. But for this healing process that Mandela was talking about, can we kind of educate the people on the branding of the CBDs and the THCs and different things of that nature?
Well, I can speak to that. We have to normalize our wellness, making wellness of Black and brown bodies look fun, and not go towards the stigmas of, if I rub some salve on me, I'm considered, or I'm doing something bad. I know in my own personal experience, having a mom who's an elder and going through what she's going through with her cancer. And the first thing I said was like, moms, like, I have a wellness compassion company. I got stuff for you all day. Rick Simpson oil, which is a great oil for those who have cannabis, and it's really good for pain and inflammation. But she didn't want to use it because of the propaganda that she got in her adolescence and becoming an adult. So I feel once we start to make our wellness normal, I'm about to just make this tea because I'm having anxiety, or I'm about to hit this CBD because I'm about to be around a whole bunch of white people. I mean, that's real stuff that we have to go through as Black people, in knowing these products and knowing how and that comes back to education, knowing how all these products can affect you and work with your nervous system and ecosystem of who you are.
Right. So just specifically, THC differentiates from CBD because CBD does not have any hallucinogenic properties. CBD is all the medicinal things, all that wholesome and goodness that you need to just relax, that you need to just relieve and deaden those pain sensors and receptors in your body. Now, THC refers to more of the hallucinogenic properties. And so you may have two varietals, indica based or sativa based. So if you hear people refer to one's a head high, one's a body high, you kind of have to know which high you like. So you may be more indica prone or more sativa prone. You also have this, what they refer to now as a hybrid, which could be anywhere along that sliding scale as it refers to indica or sativa. And so some things are hybrid sativa based or dominant, and some things are hybrid indica dominant, right? And so that's the difference between THC and CBD. You also have ratios. So if I'm taking a tincture, I may get something that's a 6-to-1 ratio. It refers to the ratio of CBD and THC that's in the product. Every product has to have a label. The labels will give you the breakdown of your strain, the varietal, and the ratio of THC, CBD inside your product. And so that is just really based upon your own personal taste. Like Earl spoke to, we're all humans, we're all unique, we're all individual, we all have our own preferences. And our body, more specifically, has its own needs. And so that is just something that you have to utilize trial and error. I know that there's a Sensimia salve, right? There's also a Sensimia cream. Some people, depending on the level of absorption, may prefer a cream over a salve. And it just, based on what the base of the product is. So some things are cream based versus some things being oil based. It also depends on which kind of oils they use. If they use emu oil, it may absorb very quickly. If they use coconut oil, maybe not so much. So you really have to learn your body and what you like and what you need in order to find a product that's really effective for you. And that's just with anything else. I may rock True Religions, but they may not fit me the same as Levi's. You have to try things on for size to see what works for you. Edibles come in a variety. We have edibles in food. That refers to anything that's digestible, whether it's a tincture, a cookie, a gummy, a cake, a drink. It just depends. Anything that's digestible is considered an edible. Anything that you put on your body is considered a topical. So there are, it's a learning curve. There's a lot of labels and a lot of different classifications. And so if you have any questions or wonderments on that, the best way to go is go out shopping, right? You have a bunch of these different things that are online, like a bunch of different companies. You can look those up. I'm not going to shout any of them out because they ain't paid us. So as we talk about equity, that's important as well. But go online and look up some of these companies and look at the products. Start reading the descriptions of the products to see if they fit any of the things that you may need them to fit into. And so I know that there were some other questions on here as well. There was some other information being shared as well. Yvette Holtz spoke to the organization of the conversation and thanked us for that. And thank you, Yvette, for tuning in. She also spoke to Oakland's 12-person cannabis commission and it having an open seat. And so just again, as Liz spoke to and as Queen spoke to, the sharing of this information is really the key. And so here at both sides of the conversation, this is really what it's about. It's being the conduit of the information and making sure that it's accessible to the community. So you guys, if you need to replay this conversation, it'll be available on our YouTube, accessible through our website at www.bothsidesoftheconversation.org. But make sure that if you have any information that you want to contribute, you get on to our Facebook chat and add that in there. The resources will be available. And so if you go on, even if you go on later and you join on the conversation on YouTube, you can still enter your questions and your information sharing into the chat, which is really important. We've also included everybody's information in the Facebook chat. So if you have any questions that you want to ask them directly and feel more comfortable doing that way, that you can have access to all of these panelists with all of the good information. The information for the Success Center has been inputted. So that's there for you all. And then I wanted Alicia to speak briefly to the presence of women in the industry and filling that gap and how come we are at a disproportionate ratio in the business as we are in most industries. Alicia?
I'm of course, I'm a woman in the industry. For the life of me, I haven't been able to figure out exactly why there aren't more women in the industry. Part of it, I think that, it's really fast paced. It's constantly changing. There's like regulations are changing often. It's kind of developing, you know, all around us. I got in because, like I said, I'm an herbalist, and cannabis to me is a healing modality, right? It's an herb like a lot of other herbs that I work with. So it made sense to get involved and to try to carve out a presence in this industry so that I could represent my people, and I could also ensure that there was a level of trust in the kinds of things that I was creating. And so, I do see women sprinkled throughout. A lot of the most successful ones are the ones who are able to collaborate and aggregate their resources and ideas and like their ideologies, and be able to build something that is really is really heartfelt and heart-centered for them. I definitely feel like there is a great need for there to be more of a feminine presence in cannabis. I was doing some marketing research recently, and I saw that it seems that the biggest purchasers of cannabis, especially flower, which is still like one of the top selling items within the cannabis industry, the dominant purchasers are typically middle-aged men. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Perhaps the interest level isn't necessarily there, but something else that I spoke to, which was the stigma that's around cannabis still, could still have something to do with it. And I would say for my community as well, I do see I see some interest from women. And there's definitely a financial barrier there. I know a lot of people who make a lot of really fantastic cannabis medicines, topicals, edibles, and everything. And I think that sometimes resources and just support around them could be a thing. But there are some awesome organizations. There's like Supernova Women, where they try to get together and again aggregate information and resources, have events and bring women together, and and also find opportunities for women to engage and to get access into the cannabis industry. There's also a platform, Put Color Back in Cannabis. That's also a woman-centered platform as well. So we're out there, just not necessarily like in the high numbers. But I do feel like if we can all aggregate our information, our resources, and our desires together, that we can have a stronger presence. You know what I mean? And we can, and that's of course going to have a more positive outcome on our community in general.
That's powerful information. Powerful information. I wanted to jump back to Jabal and Mandela about this education part because it is a lot of stigmas tied to cannabis. I know I had a relative who was just against it and had a family member who suffered from epilepsy. And after time and education, cannabis did help with epilepsy. So if we know that this is a healing medicine, I know there's been a lot of negative stigma tied to cannabis, but now that we're converting this new modern cannabis industry with all of the different research and thing that's going on, how do we educate community or people in the community who have had this negative stigma of cannabis as healing? Because I noticed that after we had the opioid crisis, it seems like a lot of senators and people, after they found out how much damage the opioid crisis did to people, a lot more seem to be open to revisiting the cannabis conversation. So my question is, how do we kind of educate people? What does that look like? I know you guys said we have to educate people. What does that look like to actually educate our people in the community to look at cannabis as a medicine, as it helps to certain medical issues?
Well, I'll speak for a second. A lot of the work that we do is, you look at platforms, you look at how people market for any product, and then you see what's successful. Our success has been starting Black Canada Joy, starting Padre Move, and actually paying these people who are really good at advertising, who are really good at marketing, who are really good at just analytics, data, and trying to see the successes and then apply that to our community. Like I said, Black Canada Joy, small startup. We got brands that wanted to donate to us, but I mean, literally you go out to your community and you tell them that you got a cannabis compassion program, and they looking at you like, what's the catch? You know what I'm saying? Like they don't even want to, no, you sign up and you do this, and then they're just like, yeah. And even though they know that they use, the product themselves. So, you just gotta fight through those barriers, even within your own community. You gotta kind of like give the education. When we say give the education in our marketing, we try to include some education about the product, not just come and join our membership, but like, here goes some education about it. So it's kind of like you spoon feeding people. And then when they really want that information, you got to be there to give it to them. And that's why, people like Alejandro, lawyers, a lot of people believe either they believe that television or they believe that law, that lawyer, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes that's my approach. If you don't believe me, talk to this person that's an expert, you know what I'm saying? So I'll let Mandela speak to it more. I mean, like our program is in the infant stage right now, so we need a lot of help. So a lot of things is like working with other brands, working with other women, put women back, put color back in cannabis. They came at us and just was like, we want to support y'all, you know what I'm saying? And so we started working on our social media page, supporting them, they supporting us. It's just grassroots. We just going back to the old way of doing things, but intentionally sharing that information with other people that look like us. You know what I'm saying? People that are allies of us. You know what I'm saying? And being real intentional on, we want to grow this, not just right here in Oakland, not just right across the bridge in San Francisco, but across the whole country, but definitely across California first. Let's just concentrate on something and do small little goals and reach that, and then get the information out. So really it's a grassroots effort. You know what I'm saying?
As Jamal said, intentional partnerships, seeking out the folks who align with our vision and is willing to do the work. A lot of this is really studying and work and actions to conversations, not just saying, oh, we want to provide wellness. Well, what does wellness look like? In my industry bartender days, I had events that had yoga. I had events that provided conversations like this. And that's all how we can continue to bring people together, because ideally the community, that's our hub as Black people, the tribe, the unit. So once we're able to funnel people in through the community, like Black Canna Joy, our events are a funnel. Everybody who is a member of Black Canna Joy does something or knows somebody that does something. So if we utilize what we have already as a people, there's no other way but to gain success. And that's the model that Black Canna Joy is built off of. It was an idea, and then the idea went to Jamal. And then me and Jamal formulated how this idea can be put into action. And that's Padre Move. And so that's how we're looking at everything that we do in supporting the Black community, since it takes all of us to really win together.
Rico, you had a question?
Yeah, I got a quick question. I kind of didn't want to ask it, but this is both sides of the conversation, so I gotta, ask the hard questions that, come from our community and people who are always watching. So the question is, there's a lot of people who have been incubated at this point and who is a part of certain processes that is happening. The community want to know, does those folks eventually that become incubated or do get the actual support, do they become, or have you noticed any change in terms of, because I don't want to say do they become the oppressor, because that's kind of weird. So I think it's more like, because I know in San Francisco they have like this huge board in this huge process, and the community noticed that a lot of those people who were on that board were considered incubated, or folks who were actually having a business, and in their opinion it was unequitable for the individuals who was like at the bottom and really needed support, because as a business owner I need support opposed to the people who are at the bottom. So have you guys noticed that over there in Oakland, and or what is your opinions around that? I know that's been kind of like coming up in San Francisco, just in terms of an unfair process, and individuals who are getting the support, they're really not giving the support back or lending the hand back into the community to uplift other people. So I just want to know, what was your opinion, or what was going on in Oakland, because I really don't know the process like that.
I think the main thing is people got to realize is that the equity program is what we make it. If you're not at the table, if you're not going to those boring meetings and doing those things, like, you can sit back and criticize it, but if you're not going and being a part of it, like, please miss me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have time to argue with nobody about if they haven't even been at the table. You know what I'm saying? So with that, I say that no, we're nowhere near where we're supposed to be at. You know what I'm saying? But it's a program. It was the first one that happened in Oakland. It's the first one that happened across the nation. And San Francisco, like, this conversation right here is a lot of things. I don't know nothing about the equity program in San Francisco. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to claim to know it, but I say in Oakland, like, if you're not part of the conversation, if you're not at the table, if you haven't attempted to get a business and you saying, well, I heard that it wasn't cool, then miss me. Like, I mean, you can ask for resources. We're going to give you resources. We got free lawyers. We got lawyers that actually will sit down with anyone and give you a 30-minute, hour consultation on how do you get started. But I can't make you fill out that application. You know what I'm saying? Like, and a lot of people I've talked to, I'm like, well, did you turn in the application? Well, no, I didn't do that yet. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, miss me. Like, we can't even talk right now. You know what I'm saying? Because you ought to understand this is a business. It's an industry. You know what I'm saying? And so at the same time, if you want to enjoy the benefits and be able to smoke, like, the law is passed, you can go and smoke. But if you want to get into business, then maybe you should pick up a book from Nolo Press, or maybe you should go and talk to a lawyer and learn about getting into the industry as a business if you want to do that. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, come to the table, because nothing is fair and nobody's going to give you anything. If you think they're sitting back and waiting for city officials to say, okay, you know what, we really want to help this equity, they're not going to do it. You got to be at that table. You have to be able to speak on it, or you have to have a representation at that table that's going to speak up and say, hey, this is the kind of things that we found is not fair. I mean, because a lot of people get equity and equality mixed up, and equality is not equity. So, you know what I'm saying? We just got to be mindful when you're in the business, you know what I'm saying, that you are in a business, and handle your business.
Right. Liz?
Hi, thank you. Yes, I just want to echo everything that he just said. I think that's why we exist, because we know, we had to disseminate this information as best we could. And so that's why we offer those weekly equity for industry seminars, and even our job shop is an opportunity for us to learn. We're pioneering here. This is a brand new industry. This never existed before, less than, 20 years ago. So this is totally brand new. And so each one teach one. And so in order, again, if you all would like to present on our platform, where we have at least 85 people, 60 to 85 people every week signing up for our workshops, where we're just giving out free information. This is free to anybody who's willing to come and listen. But we have to remember, this is a business. The same way we got out there and hustled when we were selling, weed on the streets, we got to hustle in the same way and continuously try to educate ourselves to learn the game in this legitimate space, in this new space. And so here's an opportunity where you get to meet folks who are in the industry doing it. This is our business model. We can teach you all the theory in the world, but you need the practicum. And here's where you can get that hands-on mentorship approach in our workshops. You can raise your hand and ask as many questions as you want to of these folks who are doing it, making money at this stuff every single day. So I really encourage folks to come through. And I really appreciate groups like the San Francisco Network Group that has band together, and several of their members. I think originally they were just hoping that maybe if one or two of us get in there, but I think 8 to 10 of their members have or in the process of starting their own businesses. And that is so encouraging, from Stizzy to 415 Authentic to Burners on Hate. All those folks have been part of our group, have been part of their network, and continue to share the information to help put somebody else on and put somebody else on and put somebody else on. Really, the game ain't no different than when we was doing it in the illegit space. We just got to continue to keep ourselves educated and stay ahead of the game. So again, you got to, iron sharpens iron. You can't keep it if you ain't willing to give it away.
All right,
Thank you.
That was deep right there.
Ms.
You can't leave
Quintanetta has something she wanted to add.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Liz. Thank you.
Hey, Sweet Pea.
Hey. So I just want to elaborate back on everything everybody was saying, being that I was, being the part where somebody introduced it to me, like, hey, you could be an equity partner, you could do this and you could do that, and then everything sounded all good, but I'm like, where's the voice at? I need somebody to know my pain. I need somebody to know what they did to us out here in San Francisco, is why I didn't want to be a dispensary and why I'm going on advocacy level. So the reason why it's not a lot of Black women probably in this movement is because we just simply, a lot of us just don't really even know what's going on. You know, I'm meeting people that do all kind of stuff with the cannabis industry that I'm just now plugging into the Office of Cannabis, and even just Mega Black, the movement that we in out here. So a lot of it is just the resources and the language just need to get out there. And that's why I'm about to work really, really hard on breaking down what happened to us so that we can feel like we have an ownership in this movement. Because, you know, with a platform like this, Cannabis Aftermath of the War on Drugs, we have to know that this is, we own this. We have to know this is for us. You know, so many people get caught up in thinking that it ain't for them because they don't have the intellect, or they don't have the connect, or they not Sean Richards and they don't know this X, Y, and the Z. So that's one of the pieces where I'm about to come in at and just tell us this is really our now or never. And if I've been wounded by this war on drugs, I doubt very seriously if the person that threw me in the ditch is gonna come back out and help me. Is why the Black community has got to level up in this movement, because I am sick in hearing that we not in the movement. I'm in these meetings. I'm a national member of the cannabis. I'm on a national level. We are not in the movement. I just in the movement with Nina Parkston the other day talking about the MORE Act. They specifically said how the Black people are not getting the loans. Like they're not even helping us. Like it's people that's not helping us is why we're not getting in it, because so many people don't want to get their hopes high and get let back down. People don't have millions of dollars in the urban communities to start this movement. So that's why we got to start raising the advocacy part too, so that our people, if there's grants out there, if there's anything out there that could benefit our people to help them get ahead, it's basically where I'm about to come in at, because I'm a survivor of the aftermath of the war on drugs. We all survivors. So I feel like we got to start healing our own people, because the people that did this to us is not about to help us. So we just all need to just level up because it's so necessary. Thank you.
So we're getting close to ending here. We have about 10 minutes left. Danielle, did you have any questions or anything you wanted to ask or any feedback you wanted to give in to this?
Well, I'd like just to say I want to thank Alejandro. He's really knocking down these questions and answers of people here. Alejandro, do you want to speak to some of these really great questions that some of our panelists are asking here that you've been able to tackle?
To which one specifically?
Okay, there was one question about an applicant saying that they would like to, I'm sorry, I guess it was a couple of them. The one by anonymous attendee, there were several questions that he asked. Can you just ask the first one he asked?
Yeah, so I think the first one is, I am a verified equity applicant. I have a MSO that would like to partner with me, excuse me, to open a dispensary. If I own 100% of the license, how much of the business should I own? They will provide the funding for this project. This calls for some legal advice. I try to answer it, as generally as possible, but it depends on what city or county you are in. I believe they asked again and said that they were in San Francisco. So I just linked them directly to our pro bono legal services that we're offering directly. But there's also, I linked, which I could also link to it on the chat, on the main chat after I finish answering this, the step-by-step in the cannabis business permit link to the SF Office of Cannabis. And I think that's vital because it literally breaks down and links to the regulation that you need to see at right there without going to an attorney. You can read it yourself. It lays it out pretty simply right there. So that link will give you step-by-step instructions for all 6 steps that you need to get through with the Office of Cannabis. And it typically states that you, depending on your agreement, you need to hold anywhere from 30 to 50%. But there's minimums required depending on where you're at or what you're going to own or what agreement you have. But it comes down to contracts. It comes down to what are they going to provide? What are you providing? And it seems like this individual is providing the license, they're providing the capital, and they need to come to some sort of an agreement that needs to be in the form of a contract at that point.
Oh, that's dope. Real quick, I just want to say Sean Richards reached out to me. He was trying to get on today. He just landed. I don't think he'll be able to come on. But one of the questions I wanted to ask to all you here today is, as cannabis become more mainstream, we're driving down the highways in California in our communities. We're seeing the big billboards up in the community about brands and different things, and it's becoming more normalized. I'm a little old school the way I was raised. I know Jamal has educational background. When it comes to being a cannabis owner in the industry, and when it comes to community work, because I see a lot of you guys talking about nonprofit work or being in the community as well. When it comes to our young people, and the reason why I throw Sean up because he was a nonprofit, and when it came time to make a decision to do business in the industry, he stepped back, and decided to do the business and let the nonprofit, do what it do. When it comes to our young people and mentoring, we have a lot of mentorships. What are you guys feeling on community organizations or owners who work in the community with our young people and also in the cannabis industry as ownership? What does that look like to you guys, and what's your opinion? I'm old school. I say you don't straddle the fence, even if it is legal. You work with young people. You should either do the business and don't mix the two. But that's me. I'm old school. But what are you guys' thought process on that as we mainstream this cannabis thing?
I would say if you look at, like, I have teenage daughters, and my teenage daughters are in high school and they are very successful. If I didn't talk to them as while they're coming up about sex, you know what I'm saying? If I straddled the fence and said, I'm not going to talk to you about the different things surrounding sex and gave them the education, then I would be a terrible parent. Same thing with cannabis. My daughters, if I work as a restorative justice counselor in the schools, in Oakland and Berkeley schools, and the kids come to me and talk to me about somebody just walked down the hallways with a vape pen, smoking weed. If I say, hey, don't talk to me, hey, I can't hear you on that, you know what I'm saying? Then I would be wrong as an educator, as a teacher, as a mentor, to not open that conversation so that we can give them the education behind it. So that's what I said. With my nonprofit, my board understands the effects of cannabis. They understand how cannabis can help our community. So I'm intentional about bringing that to the, do I start off, do I ever engage? Do I ever with kids? No. You know what I'm saying? That's not our start of a conversation, but you have to be prepared to have that conversation with kids and be authentic. And that's how you actually, that's how I move as far as, in the space and being in both spaces.
That's well put. Thanks for providing that
And
feedback.
go ahead.
I know a lot of parents, they still have issues with it. I've heard feedback from some people in the community still feel like, hey, even though it's legal, it's drugs, it's a gateway, they believe, and they still feel like if people are going to do that, they don't really want them working with kids. So I just wanted to get that feedback from you guys from both sides of the conversation to kind of understand what some of the community moms and families are saying versus some of the people that's actually in the business and also working in the community, what you guys feel.
I mean, for me as a mental health clinician, I'm a master's level mental health clinician as well. And working with my youth who suffer from anxiety, depression, schizophrenic, bipolar, I have to talk to them often about self-medicating, right? Now we could put them on Ritalin, we could put them on all these other kinds of drugs that are far less effective for balancing and managing their mood, right? Also, they know how to regulate themselves when they use cannabis. And then let's not forget, you can take the hallucinogenic effects out of cannabis and provide a CBD alternative. I, as a person who doesn't write scripts, would prefer that my person had educated access and know what they're doing, and had the ability to be honest with me about how they were self-medicating. So no, I'm not going to prescribe cannabis to a child because it's illegal, right? But I am going to talk to them about the counteractive medications and the effects that cannabis can have on them while they are self-medicating. And Liz, I see you had your hand up. You had something to contribute?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate everybody's comments. I think, again, we got to educate ourselves. The whole notion of this program came from the young people. You know, it's available to them, readily available to them. Many of them do smoke. And so I think they need to have good information about it as they're making decisions for it. It's not that we're advocating one way or the other, but they need to be educated on the plant, on the product, and get good information about it, not, you know, some of these wild fairy tales that we got when we were growing up. Hence the gray hair. We got a lot of misinformation about what's going on with the plant. And so I think it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure that our young people, just as the brother said about sex or anything else, what's going on in the community on the street level, how to protect yourself, they need to know. They need good information. And I also wanted to comment on that as we're thinking about, you know, being about in the community. You cannot legally run a nonprofit. There, with the permitting process, you're going to have to go into and become a for-profit entity if you want to manage a storefront business. You can't straddle both sides of the fence. That's why we do not touch the plant, because I don't want to infringe upon my nonprofit status by having anything that is plant facing. So we're giving out information, education, and workforce development opportunities, economic development opportunities as charted by my nonprofit. So as Kasela said earlier, you gotta know what you're founded in as you're developing the foundation for your business, and you gotta adhere and stick to it so that you stay out of any murky waters.
Right. Good information. Thank you, Liz, for supporting us with that information. Alicia, I know you have something to say. I want to let you go ahead and say what you have to say and then give your closing words. The way it's going to work is we'll give everybody a quick second to have something closing that you want to give back to the community or out of this conversation. But I know you have something to say, Alicia, so you can say it and then give us some closing word and we'll move down the line to close this thing out.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with what some of the other panelists said in regards to community or parents and their concerns about their kids, you know, kind of being around cannabis and everything as this develops. You know, as Jamal said, you know, we don't deal with children in cannabis directly, right? I, as an entrepreneur, whatever revenues it is that I get from my business, if I decide to reinvest in my community and use the revenues from my own business in order to elevate a program that's really important to me, then that's my responsibility, right? That's not necessarily like intermixing business operations in any kind of way, right? And other people do this all the time, you know, Hershey's and, you know, big companies do this all the time, right? It's just that we have control over how we use our revenues from our businesses, and that directly impacts and benefits our own community. So I just wanted to add that there. But I also think that in regards to educational opportunities, platforms like this, both sides of the conversation, are really integral in regards to having these conversations in order to you know, have local people from your own community telling you exactly how it is, what's going on, so everyone can ask questions and get answers. So I hope the platform continues to grow. I hope we can use each other as resources and continue to build and definitely make an impact in the cannabis industry as it grows. You know, we don't want to miss this green rush. We definitely don't want it to be neutralized by people's past traumas and stigmas surrounding cannabis. This is a great opportunity for us, so let's utilize it and let's keep growing.
Thank you for that feedback, and definitely hear both sides of the conversation. That is exactly our had these difficult taboo conversations, the stigma conversations, the off the chart conversations and the crazy conversations that people don't want to have, as they say. But that's definitely what we're doing. And then we have our Educational Thursday platform. I want to extend our arm out to all you guys. If you have a PowerPoint presentation that you guys would like to put on for community, even Liz, some of your team, if they want to, I know you guys have your workshops, but every Thursday we have a live Zoom webinar where we have people in our community to put a PowerPoint presentation together to further educate the community, because we know with information we can start to close that gap of disparity. So thank you very much for that. Alejandro, if you want to go ahead and give us some closing out words before we go, and then we'll keep moving down the line.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody so much for having me today. And I'm here for the community, and it's pro bono legal services, and that means free. I'm not charging anything for these services. Like I said at the beginning, I have 8 law students ready to work on this. We're at an accredited ABA law school. So we're here to work. We're here for the community. And I provided the link so you can fill out the form if you are an individual who needs cannabis related legal assistance. We're here for the community. So reach out, and thank you so much, and hope everyone enjoys tomorrow.
Hey, thank you very much. That's what it's all about. Everybody at both sides of the conversation is about community impact, community empowerment, and community engagement. And that's what we're going to keep doing, supporting each other, unifying the community. So thank you very much, my brother, for that information. You guys reach out to him. That's some free information for you guys right there. So don't say you didn't get it. We're giving information. I'm going to go on down to Uncle Earl. Uncle Earl, you want to go and close us out with some final words?
I'm going to have to chime in on that techie side on Thursday. I need a PowerPoint to be able to put it out there, these little intricate things that allows you to put a nice positive spin on what you do, how to research a positive spin, utilize these resources and think positively, because you are already equal. You know, this whole thing of dividing us amongst the races was a racist idea. So we're only one race. We're all together. We're brothers and sisters. We're more alike than we are different. So technically you can take and research and get these things together. I will get a PowerPoint for Thursday.
Thank you very much, man, for the support. Queen Vanessa, you want to go ahead and give us some closeout?
Oh, yeah, sure. First, I want to say thank you to both sides of the conversation for giving us this opportunity to speak on such a critical moment for us as African Americans. And we really, really got to take this opportunity and make it work for our next generations by any means necessary. And one of the things I just want to close out with is more talks like this is going to help other people understand. Like I heard what you said about the parents don't want nobody working with their kids. You know, that's neither here nor there, because you ain't gonna really never know what a person do, not let a person tell you. I'm just saying, you know, everybody do a little something though, you know. And I'm gonna just speak for myself. I've been a consumer ever since I've been 14 years old, and I'll be 51 on Tuesday, and I'm good, you know. I feel like I'd rather consume than take Ritalin or all these other things. Because like I said, growing up in Hunters Point in an urban community, I'm wounded. So the weed, you know, the cannabis or whatever, it balances me out and it helps me. So that's why we got to start educating so many people, because what it is cannabis been out just as long as Jesus, and white Western people then killed us and deprogrammed us from what the cannabis is supposed to do for us. It been healing us for years. It's just that we didn't got deprogrammed on what the real reason for the cannabis is. From my research, it's been around since the 1400s. So it just starts right there. Is the reason why people so scared of stuff and the stigma so high is because we don't know and we're not educated. So if God allowed me to be the movement, that's where I'm coming in at, so we can stop the stigma and get what we need and quit all this Western medicine. Thank you.
All right, powerful words, powerful words. Jamal, you want to go ahead and give us some closing out words, Jamal? You got to unmute your mic.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to thank everybody from both sides of the conversation for inviting us out. I wanted to, you know, this is actually my first interview, and I'm community. I'm usually involved in the community, but however, being a speaker has never been my forte. I've always been behind the scenes. I produce events. I'm not usually in front of the camera. So I just, want to thank you guys for being one of the first opportunities for me to get, my opinion out, you know what I'm saying? More conversations like this got to happen. I mean, I love the whole platform, and any way I can be involved, either today on Sundays or Thursdays, just let me know. Like I said, I'm getting out of my little shell, but I really appreciate this. And I'm glad, you were allowing all of the panelists, a lot of them I know personally, a lot of them I want to get to know, giving us all that opportunity. So I appreciate it.
Definitely. And we're going to stay connected with you guys, and these conversations won't stop. Definitely, if you guys go to our website, bothsidesoftheconversation.org, you guys could join as a panelist for any of our upcoming conversations. We'll have the topics up in our calendar. And even if you don't feel you have the professional expertise or understanding of it, definitely you could recommend somebody that you know might be involved with that particular topic, because we do want to keep these conversations going. And I mean, it's going to be wide open the rest of the year of like different things that we're hitting on. We got Black Man Health coming up. We have our Black Panther Party coming on. We have a health forum. I mean, we're trying to touch these issues. We got to make health cool, wealth cool in the Black community. So thank you for saying that. And yeah, we're going to stay connected with you and get you on some of our other programs. Danielle, go ahead. You want to give us some closeout?
I'd just like to tell everyone, thank you once again. And once again, I am the student. As an educator, normally I am the student, and I've definitely got a lot of education and schooling to go. And I would definitely be recommending you to anyone, all of your services to everyone. Lots of great feedback in the comment section. And once again, thank you.
All right, Brother Mandela, can you give us some closeout words?
I just want to say Ashe to everything that's been said. Ashe to what's coming in the future. It's our responsibility for our wellness. So these conversations and the conversations that come in the future, I look forward to us intentionally just being in them and going forth with our actions. I'm just thankful to be a part of the process and knowing that what we do, the community needs. So thank you.
Oh man, definitely. Thank you. Liz, you want to give some final words, Liz?
Yes, I just want to, again, thank you all for having us today and being able to represent all the work that Success Centers has done in this space. Echo what everyone else has said, keep coming back, keep educating yourself. Iron sharpens iron. We got to each one teach one. You can't keep it if you don't give it away.
Thank you. That was powerful. Kashla, you want to say anything, close us out with?
I just love my people. I just love y'all. I do. We are so magical, medicinal in like human form. Earl, I echo those sentiments. We all here in this human experience. And, me and Mama B say we spiritual beings just enjoying this, having this human experience. So I really want to appreciate y'all and thank y'all from the sincerity in the bottom of my heart for being here on Sunday. Sunday is usually I ain't doing day, but both sides of the conversation has put out a call and a challenge, and I'm rising to the occasion. Jamal, I go with you. You my wonder twin. We don't do stuff on Sunday, especially in front of no camera. So I appreciate y'all taking the time out to be here to join us. More importantly, to educate our community, because this is really where the transformation happens. This is really where the unity happens. This is where that experience and we change the cycle of our community happens, and it's happening here for the young people. And I really want to appreciate all of you. I know you, and I know you, and I know your children, and I know that there is no separation between the church and the state. There is no separation between cannabis and the family. We have to educate people on how to appropriately use and consume everything, and that starts in the home first. And so I just appreciate you all for being courageous ambassadors of this experience, because, we are professionals, and it doesn't diminish our professionalism because we are in one industry or another. It can't be a double standard, okay for them and not okay for us. I rebuke that. I don't subscribe to that by any means. And so I appreciate you all for taking the stance that you have taken publicly showing your face, giving your words, sharing your knowledge. Just Ashe. I appreciate you all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Rico, you want to give us some closing words?
Of course, of course. I just want to say thank you all for a very informative Sunday around the cannabis industry, around equity, around all the things that we need to know and to further educate our community so that way our community can get a better understanding of a process and how things go. I want to echo what Brother Earl said. We are humans and we all a part of this race. And the race is not to the swift nor to the strong, but it's to those who can endure this race. And the possibilities become endless. All those out there who are equity applicants, all those who are trying to get in the industry, become educated. If you stick in, if you stay, possibilities become endless. And that's both sides of the conversation.
Man, that is deep. So before we go, everybody, just want to give you guys all, kudos and homage for coming on. I think this is very important. It was very informative. I think our community has been blessed with information. I hope people are able to go check the sites and check everything out that's going on with the information and the resource that was put in there. Because one thing of these conversations about is to educate, have some understanding, but also give people information for resources so that they can, continue the journey of this. And it is Dr. Martin Luther King birthday weekend. And one quote that always come to me resonate: hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. So we have to do it and lead in love. I think that's powerful. But again, this Tuesday, we're going to continue our program. We have another live webinar this Tuesday, our Hidden Gem segment. We're going to have the San Francisco District Attorney on, Chesa Bodine. This is going to be a very good conversation. Please, if you guys have questions, get in the chat. This is on our Hidden Gem segment. So the community engagement is a little bit different than our Sunday conversations. But if you guys have specific questions that you want us to ask the District Attorney of San Francisco, please let us know. But we will have him on for a short time, and we want to community spotlight him and talk about some of the things that he's doing, get a better understanding of where he's going, his position, his progressive movement as a district attorney. So I think this conversation is going to be very powerful and impactful to the community and his stance on victim support and different things of that nature. But we have a bunch of questions for him. But if you want to leave a question to ask, please submit it to us so we can make sure that we get your questions out there. And then this following Thursday, coming up Thursday, we will have another attorney on here. We're going to have Justin Ward from the Ward Law Firm. He's going to come on and talk about personal injury law and help people and understand how these injuries and different things, how they work and how do you get support. A lot of times things happen to people and they just don't have the right answer. So he's going to come on and put on a nice educational Thursday presentation, understanding personal injury law. So that's going to be good. And then our following Sunday, we'll continue our Sunday conversation. We got a list of things that's coming up. So definitely check out our website. The launch party was great. Thank you guys for all the support. Please click and donate on our website. Appreciate all the people who have been donating, supporting us, loving what we do, giving us thumbs up, telling us to keep pushing, keep these difficult conversations. Our Facebook group chat is where our daily engagement is going. You'll see some conversations going on, different memes, different topics. It's really going down in there, and we're trying to engage people to have the conversation, and we're going to keep this thing pushing. So thank you all for coming in. Check out our website, bothsidesofconversation.org. That's where you're going to have all of our information. We have an easy timer up there. You can see when our next live webinar is. You can get involved. You can nominate somebody, especially this Tuesday when we have our Hidden Gem segment. It is important that you guys nominate Black and Brown businesses. We are trying to support and patronize our Black and Brown businesses, and we're using this platform to get their information out there because we have to support each other. We have to build. I think the sister said earlier, with these businesses, as we support them, gives our other community members opportunity for employment and advancement. And it starts with us because, in this other world, this corporate sector, we are the first to be hired and first to be fired. We are impacted the most, and we need our employers to be Black and Brown so we can hire people that we understand. So with that being said, thank you guys for joining today's Sunday conversation on the cannabis equity. I think this was a powerful conversation, and we're going to continue this. This was just a start, but we're going to continue to dive even deeper in it as the laws change and things change every day. So thanks everybody for joining. We will see you guys on Tuesday. Have a blessed evening.